name for the record and spelling would help.
Okay.
Post-edit.
Elizabeth Clement, Clement, and I am the Chief Justice of the Michigan Supreme Court.
And how long have you held that position?
Since November of 2022.
And this case, Lake Township filed against the Maxons. Justice Bernstein was addressing, through his questions, the bigger picture of all of this and could potentially have ramifications nationwide. And I'm wondering if, however the Supreme Court rules on this case, whether or not it will potentially be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Well, I can't answer that. What I can say is any issues that we see with technology and the changes in technology, and drones are a great example of that. We're going to see that the federal courts and the U.S. Supreme Court are very interested in those type of cases, especially when it deals with privacy concerns. So I would just be guessing if I said I could see a case like this or something similar to this making its way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, because I think it impacts so many people in their everyday lives that it's definitely an area of interest.
So procedurally, it's my understanding that any appeal from the Michigan Supreme Court's on this case would go straight to the U.S. Supreme Court if it were to be appealed. Is that correct?
If there is a question, there's a federal question, yes, that the Michigan Supreme Court is the court of last resort in the state of Michigan on state statute or state constitutional questions. But if there is a question that is appropriate for the U.S. Supreme Court, yes, it would go directly to the U.S. Supreme Court.
And this case specifically has Fourth Amendment
correct
implications, so that would be something that the Supreme Court could potentially take up?
Yes.
Okay. And getting back to the bigger picture that Justice Bernstein was getting at, what potentially in a hypothetical case, not Lake Township versus the Maxons, would, if a township was doing surveillance without a warrant of a piece of property and came across evidence of a crime, an illegal marijuana grow operation or a meth lab or a dead body, what implications would your ruling in this case have on something like that?
Well, I can't speak to hypothetical cases. We could have a case that has very similar facts to what you've just proposed come before us. What I can say is that when we are deciding cases, we focus very, very closely on the questions that are before us and not going beyond that. But we also do have to take into consideration that whatever decision we make could have an impact on that next case or that next 100 cases. So we try to tailor our decisions as narrowly as possible to leave the door open for that future case that raises kind of that next step, that expansion, that something similar to the hypothetical that you just raised, to leave the door open so that we're saying what the rule is in this specific circumstance, and then we take it each piece at a time.
And I've been engaging in taking unofficial polls of my neighbors in my community and my local officials in Benzonia Township, where I live up by Traverse City, and universally, 100% of the people that I polled in my unofficial poll have said that they think unfettered drone surveillance of their property is not something that they like. And, how much does your personal feeling on an issue such as this, you and the other justices, come into how you decide a case versus the law?
Yeah. We have to put our personal opinion, our personal preference aside. We have to follow the law. We have to look at cases and precedent that came before this case before us, and we have to follow that. So there are many times that I am on one side of a ruling that is contrary to what my personal opinion is. Sometimes they line up, right? And it's because the law says what it says, and we interpret it and say, and the the answer to the question before us lines up, but oftentimes it doesn't, and that's what we're called to do as judges is to put aside our personal beliefs, our personal preferences, and opinions, and things that we may feel strongly about, or that our neighbors may feel strongly about, and get to the right answer based on the rule of law.
And I'm quite a nerd in that I actually read the amicus briefs filed in this case and all the court opinions. I've been reporting on this case since it was in the lower courts. And what do you think about the quality of the briefs that were filed in this case to get you to come to a conclusion?
Yeah, I would say that we were very well prepared for oral argument and for the court to move forward with whatever action we're going to take on the case.
And last question, are you going to break news on my camera and tell me what you decided in your huddle that you had after the oral arguments?
I am.
You are?
No.
Oh, come on. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm Eric VanDussen. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too,
Yep.
Eric.